Hi everyone, I'm Nick from FunScienceDemos, and we have a very special scientist as our guest today. Dr. Donald Johanson is a paleontologist who discovered the most famous fossil ever found, Lucy. Thanks for joining us on FunScienceDemos today, Dr. Johanson.
Well, it's a real privilege. You know, I love to talk about Lucy.
All right, so Dr. Johanson, could you tell us about your discovery of Lucy? For example, when and where did you discover Lucy?
Well, it's unbelievable, but it was 50 years ago when I was a young scientist when I found Lucy in 1974.
Wow.
In the northeastern part of Ethiopia, on the Horn of Africa, in a desert region called the Afar. And it was really, in many ways, an astonishing discovery.
Wow, amazing. Could you tell us a little bit more about what the Afar region is like?
Well, the Afar region is the most northeastern area of Africa's Great Rift Valley. And today, it's essentially a desert. There's a river that runs through there that has eroded these ancient geological strata, which are jammed full of fossils.
Wow. To find a specimen like that in a place like that is wild to me. I read that Lucy is a blend of ape and human traits. Is that right?
Well, that's exactly true. For instance, if we saw her walking, living, she would be walking like we do. She'd be walking on two legs, and if you think about that, there aren't many animals that do that except humans and our ancestors. But as she got closer, we'd see that she had an ape-like face, that it was very projecting. And if we looked at the skull itself, we'd be amazed because it was very small. It's about the size of the brain was only about the size of an orange. Can you imagine? Ours is 4 times that size.
Wow, the size of an orange? It's crazy just thinking about the size of a brain and how important that is to understanding who we are as humans. Can you tell us why Lucy is important to our understanding of human beings?
Well, Lucy is incredibly important because she's older than 3 million years. She's 3.2 million years old. She's a part of a skeleton. We envision her as an actual person. And when I first discovered her, she was the oldest, most complete human ancestor. And she told us some interesting things, that the brain was very small at that time, that upright walking, like walking on our 2 legs, happened before our brains began to grow. So she began to tell us a lot about how evolution actually works.
Would you say that the adaptation to walk on 2 legs made our brains, allow our brains to grow, essentially?
Well, it was certainly a way of getting around.
Yeah.
Our closest relatives, the African apes, walk on all 4s. And when you walk on 2 legs, you use much less energy. And it allows you to see longer distances and so on. So I think it was really, pardon the pun, the first step in becoming human.
Do you have any advice for young people thinking about science as a career?
Well, I think looking towards becoming a scientist is probably the most exciting thing one could do in life, because it allows you to ask questions for which we don't have answers. And that, to me, is the real essence of how we can best use our minds.
Dr. Johanson, you're one of the greatest scientists. Can you explain to our subscribers why science is so important to our world?
Well, I think as we move forward, we want to understand our place in the universe. And there's no better way of doing that than studying science.
So could you tell us why your work, your discoveries, are so important to you as an individual?
Well, over the years that I've studied these very ancient humans, I've realized that all humans on the planet today, all people watching, you and me and everybody, has a common beginning, and that common beginning traces us back to our African origins. And I think it's important to think about our common future as a species.
What inspired you to start your science career? What inspired you to be a scientist?
Well, I think the most important thing is to develop a passion for what you want to do, whether it's studying the evolution of bats or whether it's trying to understand some aspect of our solar system. And I had the great fortune of reading a book when I was 13 years old about human origins, how our ancestors evolved. And to me, that was the spark that ignited my interest in studying human origins.
Very cool.
If you want to know more about human origins, you should go to our website, iho.asu at Arizona State University, where I'm founding director of the Institute, because we have a number of scientists who are working on this question of how we became human.
And you can find more about this in the links in the description below. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Johanson. It was a pleasure and privilege meeting you today. Science is so cool.
Science is cool, Nick, that's for sure. And remember to always stop and try to wonder why.